Ensuring that you have the proper oil level on your personal watercraft is pretty important for the performance and longevity of your machine. Now, the problem is each machine is a little bit different, so you're going to want to consult the owner's manual or the service manual to find out the exact process for your machine, but typically they're all going to follow a similar process because they all use some form of a dry sump oiling system. We've got a Yamaha here with a MR1-esque engine. Not sure exactly if this would qualify as the MR1, but it's that style engine. 4-cylinder, 1.1 liter, fuel injected, you know the drill. Now these are interesting because they have this big oil tank at the back and you cannot drain the sump at all. So when you do an oil change on one of these, you only get about half the oil out, which can be tricky because you need to do oil changes a little bit more frequently. But let me show you how we're going to check the oil on this and what happens if it gets overfilled. So I've got my flush fitting connected here because in order to get an accurate read on the oil level on pretty much any personal watercraft, you're going to need to start the engine and let it run for at least 30 seconds, ideally more like a minute or two. If you're in the water, out on the lake or on the ocean, that isn't a problem. You can start it up and let it idle and it's going to get cooling water. Here, sitting in my driveway, we need to provide some water so that we don't overheat the engine while we're idling it. So I'm going to start this up, and of course the standard process of starting any personal watercraft on a hose: start the engine, start the water, stop the water, stop the engine. So here we go. Now that this has run for a little bit of time, we've got water coming out the back, but most importantly, any oil in the sump has now been pumped into our oil tank. So let's take off our cap here and see what our level is like. And it looks like the level is up about here, when it should be down here. If I wipe this off, see our F on the dipstick there, that indicates full. Let's put this in. And yeah, it's here and it should be here. So we're going to need to suck some of the oil out of this. Now, let me pan you back a little bit. So you can see my oil extractor bucket back here, which is already hooked up to the battery. Now, an easy way to get this so that you get the right level now, take your dipstick and kind of measure, put your fingers on it, get your tip lined up right with the full mark, and then you stick that down in until it hits there where your finger was. Okay, now let's check our level again. Now you can see where the oil is. We're just a hair above the full, which that much isn't going to cause a problem. If it's up here, yeah, that's going to cause a problem. Keep it right around that full mark, within about half an inch will be okay. A little more is better than a little too less, in my opinion. Now what ends up being an issue on these MR1 style engines is the air filters up here, and the design of the crankcase ventilation system has a tendency of flooding the air filter with oil if it's overfilled. So we're going to pop these 6 screws out in the top of this air filter cover here in the front, pull that out and inspect our air filter. So my recommendation for this is get a 1/4 inch ratchet with a 1/4 inch long socket, put a little masking tape around a Phillips bit and stick it in the end, and that way it didn't go anywhere. Let's pop this thing apart. wires and stuff kind of in the way here. May have to just shift some hoses around a bit. There we go. Let's see here. Which way can we shove this? Here we get in here and you see, with quite a fight, you can get this out, and it is just saturated with oil. It's probably only breathing through about half of this filter, if even that. So that'll cause you some severe performance issues. You could replace this. A lot of people will just remove these. There's typically not a tremendous amount of dust on the water like you would see on, a side-by-side or a four-wheeler or something. So a lot of people will just remove these. It's up to you what you want to do with your machine, but I will just take this and discard it. Then put our cover back on where it goes. Start putting our screws back in. So we've removed our oily air filter and corrected the oil level so it doesn't keep spewing oil into the intake. So now this thing's ready to go back out on the water and be enjoyed for the rest of the summer. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. Know how the right way to check your oil level is, and also what to do if you overfill it, because this is going to happen, at least on one of these MR1 engines. So that's all there is for now. Thanks for watching.